Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 5th meeting of the Lower Providence Township Board of Supervisors. This is our reorganization meeting, so if you could please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Deb, could you please call the roll for us?
Absolutely. Ms. Seckman. Here. Mr. Sergini.
Here.
Mr. Duffy.
Here.
Mr. Thomas. Here. Ms. Zimmerman.
Here. Okay, we're all here. Patrick wants to apologize for the delay.
I'm very sorry for holding everybody up and being late to the meeting. I had two children with two different activities in two very different directions and was late getting here, so I apologize. Thank you for extending me the courtesy.
So with that, we'll try to keep the meeting moving quickly so everybody can get home and out of the cold here. Prior to our meeting this evening, we held an executive session on Sunday, which would have been Saturday? What date was that? The 3rd? 3rd, January 3rd. We discussed personnel matters. Okay, and then with that, we're going to start this evening with appointing of a temporary chair. And so we need a motion to appoint a temporary chair.
I would make the motion to appoint Ms. Ekman as the temporary chair.
Thank you, Patrick. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, motion carried. All right. Item 2 will be election of our chairperson for 2015. Someone like to make a motion for chair?
Make a motion to appoint Jason Sorgini as chairman.
Okay, we have a motion to appoint Jason as chair. Do we have a second?
I would second.
Motion and a second. You have any questions on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor, consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carried. Okay, so with that, we'll do a little musical chairs. Do you want to wait till vice chair?
Do we need to move?
Not really.
We could probably just make it through.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
We'll move next meeting.
Yeah, sounds good.
Then you can get the right chair, too.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, take it over, Jason.
All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is election of a vice chairman. Do I have a motion to elect a vice chairman?
Make a motion to appoint Patrick Duffy.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, appointment of solicitor and fixing of compensation. Do I have a motion?
I would make the motion to appoint John Rice and Grimbeen and Thatcher to continue as our solicitor.
We have a motion of appointing John Rice and Grimbeen and Thatcher as our solicitor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 on the agenda, appointment of a secretary to the Board of Supervisors and also the appointment of the assistant secretary. Do I have a motion appointing the secretary and assistant secretary?
Make a motion to appoint Rich Gestrick as the secretary and Jerry Golis as the assistant secretary.
We have a motion appointing Rich as secretary and Jerry as assistant secretary. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, appointment of treasurer to the Board of Supervisors and also the appointment of an assistant treasurer. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Jerry Golis as treasurer and Rich Gestrick as assistant treasurer.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, appointment to the vacancy board. Do I have a motion appointing someone to the vacancy board?
Make a motion to reappoint Gloria Corcoran for the vacancy board, 1-year term.
I have a motion reappointing Gloria Corcoran to the vacancy board for a 1-year term. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I see Gloria present tonight. Thank you very much for agreeing to serve again this year. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Library Board of Trustees. We have 2 positions for 3-year terms. Do I hear a motion appointing 2 people to 3-year terms for the Library Board of Trustees?
Make a motion to appoint Joseph Clement and Marie Altieri to those 2 positions.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. I see Mr. Clement in the audience tonight. Thank you very much for agreeing to serve. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Sewer Authority. It's a 5-year term, and we need 1 appointment. Do I have a motion appointing, making an appointment to the Sewer Authority?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Charlie Rose to the Sewer Authority.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Lower Perkiomen Valley Regional Sewer Authority. It is a 5-year term. Do I hear a motion?
I would make a motion to reappoint Fred Walker as a representative to the Lower Perkiomen Valley Regional Sewer Authority.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I see Fred in the audience. Fred, thank you for again agreeing to serve. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Planning Commission. There are 2 4-year terms. Do I hear a motion of making appointments to the Planning Commission?
I'll make a motion to reappoint Ted Baird to the Planning Commission and to appoint Virginia Crickham.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Make a second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? Mr. Comra,
Yes, real quick, who was the
Can-
second appointment?
second appointment.
I couldn't hear the name.
Virginia Crickham, she's a resident of Shannondale.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Zoning Hearing Board. It is a 5-year term, and we're looking for 1 appointment. Do I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion to appoint Gail Hager to the Zoning Hearing Board.
We have a motion appointing Gail Hager to the Zoning Hearing Board. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience?
Great choice.
Thank you, Mr. Borai.
It's more of a comment.
Okay, time for the vote. All those in favor, please consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and I see Gail in the audience. Gail, thank you for agreeing to serve. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Parks and Recreation Board. There are 2 vacancies, each are 5-year terms. Do I hear a motion making appointments to the Parks and Recreation Board?
I would make a motion to reappoint Beth Ann Mazza and to appoint J.P. Mascaro to the Parks and Rec Commission the Parks and Rec Board.
We have a motion reappointing Beth Ann Mazza and appointing J.P. Mascaro. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor, please consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, appointment to the Finance Committee. We have 3 4-year terms. Do I hear a motion making appointments to the Finance Committee?
I would make a motion to appoint Lou Lombardo and to appoint Colleen Ekman to the Finance Committee.
We have a motion seeking to appoint Lou Lombardo and Colleen Ekman to the Finance Committee. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So as of now, we still have 1 vacancy to the Finance Committee. Next item.
Actually, I think you still have 2.
Okay.
Colleen is, maybe she was appointed as a liaison last year?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that's
Yep.
it then?
Yep.
Okay.
Next item, appointment to the UCC Board of Appeals. It is a 3-year term. Do I hear a motion?
I would make a motion to reappoint Richard Firth to the UCC Board of Appeals.
We have a motion reappointing Richard Firth to the UCC Board of Appeals. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, appointment of consulting engineer and fixing of compensation. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Woodrow and Associates.
Have a motion appointing Woodrow and Associates as consulting engineer at the appropriate compensation. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions from the board? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, appointment of a traffic engineer and fixing of compensation. Do I hear a motion?
I would make a motion to reappoint McMahon and Associates, Inc. at their current rate as a traffic engineer.
We have a motion appointing McMahon Associates, Inc. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, appointment of environmental consultant and fixing of compensation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to reappoint Woodrow and Associates as our environmental consultant at their current rate.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second, reappointing Woodrow and Associates as the environmental consultant at their current rate. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, appointment of landscape architectural consultant and fixing of compensation. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to reappoint Thomas Cometa Associates as our landscape architect consultant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, reappointing Thomas Comita Associates to be the architectural consultant at the appointed compensation. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, appointment of township lighting consultant and fixing of compensation. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Suburban Lighting.
We have a motion appointing Suburban Lighting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, appointing Suburban Lighting consultant at the appropriate compensation. Is there any questions or comments from the board? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, appointment of labor attorney and fixing of compensation. Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to reappoint Scott Blissman of Eckert Siemens at his current rate as the labor attorney.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to reappoint Scott Blissman from Eckert Siemens at the established compensation. Any questions from the board? From the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, appointment of minute secretary to the various boards and fixing of compensation. Do I hear a motion?
Go ahead.
Sorry, John.
No.
I'd like to make a motion to reappoint Deborah Stanish as our minute secretary at the appropriate compensation fee.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Deb, welcome back aboard for another year. Next item on the agenda, appointment of actuary for township pension plans, township employees pension plan, and the defined contribution 401A plan and fixing of compensation, and the appointment of municipal pension manager and fixing of compensation. Do I hear a motion?
I would make the motion to appoint Charles Freelander of Municipal Finance Partners as the actuary, correct? And INR Advisor Services as the administrator for the Township Pension Fund.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the board? Questions from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, appointment of board liaisons for the coming year. I'd like to make the following appointments. Business Development Committee, I'd like to ask Colleen and Jill to continue to serve on that committee. Library Board, I'd like to ask Don to continue to serve on that committee. Parks and Rec, I'd like to ask Colleen and Patrick to jointly serve. Pension Committee, I'd like to ask Patrick. Planning Commission, I'd like to ask Jill and Patrick. And I will, remain on the Sewer Authority for the coming year. Moving on to resolutions and ordinances. Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the appropriate township officials to affix signatures on checks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
The township manager and the assistant township manager are authorized by second-class township code to sign checks. In addition, a signature of an elected official is required. We typically use a stamp for the chairman for the elected official. So I'm respectfully requesting that the board authorize the appropriate individuals on township staff to sign the checks.
Thank you, Ms. Golis. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 25B, a resolution designating depositories for township funds. Ms. Golis, I don't believe any of those have changed for the coming year.
That is correct.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions from the board? The audience? Hearing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
25C, a resolution to establish the amount of the treasurer's bond at $600,000 and $100,000 for the secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those two amounts are established by our auditors depending upon the amount of funds available at any one time to someone such as the township manager or, the treasurer and the assistant treasurer.
Excellent, thank you. Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, establishing the amount of the treasurer's bond at $600,000 and $100,000 for the secretary. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 25D, a resolution establishing the police officers' contributions to the police pension plan for the year 2015.
Thank
Ms.
you,
Goles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
The police pension plan document sets the annual contribution rate at 5%. The township is permitted to change that, basically decrease it, but we need to do so by ordinance or resolution. Based upon our current contract negotiations with the police, we are asking to establish the 2015 contribution rate at 2% of total compensation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goles. Do I hear a motion?
I would make that motion.
Okay, and a second?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second establishing the police officers' contributions to the police pension plan for the year 2015 at 2%. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. 25E, a resolution establishing member contributions to the Employees Pension Fund for the year 2015. Ms. Goles.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Although the employees plan document does not set a specific contribution, we do set that by resolution. Again, based upon contract negotiations, we are respectfully requesting that the contribution rate for all members of the employees pension plan be set at 0.25% for the calendar year 2015.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion?
Make that motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second establishing member contributions to the Employees Pension Fund for the year 2015 at 0.25%. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 25F, a resolution appointing the certified public accounting firm of Maley LLP to serve as auditors to audit the accounts of Lower Providence Township for fiscal year 2014. Ms. Goles, you're on a roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a result of the pension RFP that was put out earlier in 2014, Malley was appointed by the board to conduct the financial audit for 2014 for the township. We're asking respectfully that you would appoint them during this reorganization meeting.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to appoint the accounting firm of Malley LLP to serve as our auditors.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
And 25G, certification of delegates and voting delegate to PSAT's annual state convention. Will any of the board be available to attend this year?
I'll be available.
Thank you, Don. Do we need a motion for that, Rich?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Can I have a motion, please, then?
I'll make a motion then to appoint Don Thomas as our PSAT's delegate for this year.
Thank you very much. Motion, second.
Second.
Any questions? Questions from the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for going, Don. And one item under new business for this evening, authorization to advertise an ordinance recognizing the authority of fire companies and emergency responders to seek reimbursement for hazardous abatement incidents, environmental incidents, and fire safety and rescue responses. And Allison, welcome. You are on.
So essentially, this is an ordinance allowing either the township or EMS or fire, ambulance, what have you, from requesting reimbursement from the appropriate insurance company. This is not intended to go after township residents for the cost of, say, responding to a fire, the cost of ambulance services, essentially, if there's insurance available that would pay for it, this enables the township or EMS or environmental or something to request that the insurance company reimburse them. However, their ability to seek reimbursement is sort of limited by the contractual language in the insurance policy, but this essentially allows the township to try to get it. Whether or not they get it is up to the insurance company, but this allows the township to go after the insurance company. So that's what this ordinance is about.
And Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was my understanding when we had discussed this previously that the fire department, the ambulance, had been wanting to collect these fees, and without an actual ordinance, they are not allowed to, by law, do it. So we have to enact this ordinance so the fire company can go ahead and collect from the available insurance proceeds.
That is correct. That is the purpose of this ordinance. Oh, it's not on. Did I turn it off?
You're on.
I'm on. Yes, that is correct, that without this, the fire company, the ambulance, what have you, has no mechanism for seeking recourse. This is simply the mechanism allowing them to do that, so that's correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to authorize to advertise the ordinance?
Make that motion?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to make that second, please.
Motion and a second. Any questions from the board? Questions or comments from the audience? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the only other item, our next meeting will be next week, January 15th, back on our regular Thursday.
Well, Jason, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank Colleen for her year as chairwoman of this board. I certainly enjoyed working with you and under your guidance and leadership, especially for my first year on the board. So thank you very much. You've got
Absolutely.
big shoes to fill there, Jason.
Yes, I do. Thank you for your leadership this year, Colleen.
Thank you, it's
Thank
very
you,
nice of
Colleen.
you. It was my pleasure, and it went by very quickly, and I'm happy to step aside and let another supervisor sort of take the reins and see what you can do, Jason. It's going to be a busy year.
No doubt.
Good luck to you.
Busy year and a good year.
Do we have to open it up?
Yes. Any questions from the audience? Questions or comments? Thank you all for coming out on a Monday night. Seeing and hearing no comments from the audience, I guess I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion?
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor consent by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all, and see you next week.